The term fascism gets thrown around quite a lot these days, and in the process, it's almost lost its meaning entirely. But given the events of the past few years, I think it's more important than ever to understand what this term really means. So, today on Deep Thought, we are asking, what is fascism? Fascism originated in Italy during the early 20th century, right after World War I. The word itself comes from the Italian fascia, meaning group or bundle, and the ancient Roman symbol of authority called the fasces, a bundle of rods tied around an axe, representing strength through unity and absolute power. After World War I, Italy was in an economic crisis. There was mass unemployment, strikes, and political instability. Many Italians felt betrayed because they didn't get the territorial rewards that they expected from being on the winning side. The Russian Revolution in 1917 inspired many left-wing movements across Europe. In Italy, factory occupations and peasant uprisings made the elites and the middle class fear that communism was rising. Here enters Benito Mussolini, a former socialist who formed the Fascis di Combattimento in 1919. This was a paramilitary movement that promised order, national unity, and the revival of Italy's glory. His followers, called the Black Shirts, used violence against leftists, unions, and political opponents. And by 1922, Mussolini staged the March on Rome, and by this point he had amassed so much power that he was able to pressure the king into making him prime minister. This event marks the birth of fascism as a political system. The Nazi Party under Adolf Hitler is one of the clearest examples of fascism in action. On the night of February 27, 1933, the Reichstag building, home of the German parliament in Berlin, was set on fire, and the blaze destroyed the plenary chamber and much of the structure. Police arrested Marinus van der Lubbe, a young Dutch construction worker with communist sympathies, who admitted to starting the fire. But the Nazis claimed that this was part of a larger communist plot to overthrow the government. Hitler seized the moment. He convinced President Paul von Hindenburg to invoke Article 48 of the Weimar Constitution, granting emergency powers. The next day, the Reichstag decree suspended civil liberties like freedom of speech, press, and assembly, while allowing authorities to arrest political opponents and ban organizations. This gave the Nazis cover to launch mass arrests of communists, including all Communist Party deputies in Parliament, effectively silencing their opposition before the March 5th elections. With the communists out of the way, the Nazis boosted their vote share from 33% to 44%. Still short of a majority, they formed a coalition, just enough to pass the Enabling Act, which gave Hitler dictatorial powers. Then came the Night of the Long Knives, also called the Rom Purge, which took place from June 30th to the 2nd of July 1934. This was Hitler's move to consolidate power by eliminating both rivals inside and outside of the Nazi Party. The main target was the SA, the Nazi paramilitary wing led by Ernest Röhm. By mid-1934, the SA had nearly 3 million members, and Röhm was pushing to replace the professional army with a people's army, alarming both the German military and conservative elites. Under pressure from them, Hitler ordered the SS, led by Heinrich Himmler and Reinhard Heydrich, along with Hermann Göring's police force, to strike. The SA leaders were arrested and executed near Munich, with Röhm himself being shot in his cell on July 1st. But the purge went beyond just the SA. Political opponents like former Chancellor Kurt von Schleicher, Bavarian politician Gustav von Kahr, and former Nazi leader Gregor Strasser were also killed. At least 85 people died, and some reports suggest maybe even hundreds, and around 1,000 people were arrested. The killings were later retroactively legalized as an emergency measure to protect the state. This purge cemented Hitler's relationship with the army, clearing the way for him to assume the role of Führer after President Hindenburg's death only weeks later. It marked a decisive step in turning Nazi Germany into a full totalitarian dictatorship. Joseph Goebbels served as Reich Minister of Propaganda and Public Enlightenment from 1933 until 1945, a position in which he was instrumental in shaping public opinion to support the Nazi regime and Adolf Hitler. He established a comprehensive control system over German media and culture, creating the Reich Chamber of Culture in 1933 to regulate radio, press, literature, music, films, and theatre, effectively excluding Jews and other political opponents from these fields. Goebbels orchestrated major propaganda events, including the 1933 book burning in Berlin, which targeted works by Jewish and other un-German authors. And he used films like Triumph of Will and The Eternal Jew to promote Nazi ideology. He was a master of propaganda techniques, using radio and film to spread anti-Semitism, glorify Hitler, and to maintain morale during World War II. And he remained a loyal follower of Hitler until the end of the war. Adolf Hitler was presented as Germany's savior through a carefully orchestrated propaganda campaign led by Goebbels. Nazi propaganda portrayed him as the only leader capable of restoring national pride after the humiliation of World War I and the Treaty of Versailles. He was cast as both a man of the people, a soldier, a worker, one of them, and as a near-messianic figure, the Führer embodying the German nation itself. Posters, films, radio broadcasts, and massive rallies all reinforced this image, while his book, Mein Kampf, was promoted as the blueprint for Germany's rebirth. The Nazi press, especially the Völkischer Beobachter, declared him as the leader of the coming Germany and the resurrection of the nation. His speeches that were amplified by modern technologies like radio and airplane tours reached millions, presenting him as the hope of the German people. This Führer cult elevated Hitler to almost superhuman status, the man destined to unite the nation into a, and please forgive my pronunciation, into a Volksgemeinschaft, or the people's community under his leadership. There were also youth organizations like the Hitler Youth and the League of German Girls that indoctrinated young people with Nazi ideology, teaching loyalty to Hitler above all else. Education, culture, and even sports were tied into this militarized vision of society. The Gestapo, which is short for this word which I cannot pronounce, were the secret police created on the 26th of April 1933 by Hermann Göring to crush all opposition to the Nazi regime. Its targets included political dissidents, Jews, Romas and Sinti, homosexuals, disabled people, and anyone deemed an enemy of the state. The Gestapo had extraordinary powers. They could arrest without trial, search homes, and use torture during interrogations. In 1934, control passed to Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, who expanded its reach, and by 1939, the Gestapo was folded into the Reich Security Main Office as Department 4, working hand in hand with the SS Intelligence Service, the SD. Though relatively small, around 32,000 officers, by 1934 the Gestapo relied on a vast network of over 150,000 informants. This created a climate of fear where neighbors could denounce one another. Their work was central to Nazi terror, suppressing resistance and deporting millions to ghettos, camps, and ultimately to extermination centers during the Holocaust. So, fascism isn't an insult, it isn't a political buzzword, and it isn't a term that should just be thrown around lightly. The history of Nazi Germany shows us that true fascists are ruthless, deceptive, and brutal, and will leave complete devastation in their wake. Thank you for watching Deep Thought. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And let me know in the comments, do you think the term fascism is being used correctly, or has it lost its meaning? And until next time, good night.